Welcome to the Flourishing Life podcast. My name is Andrew Staggs. In the studio today, we've got Charlie Burke from Exponential Australia. They are church planting extraordinaires, facilitators. Really looking forward to this episode. But before we do, thanks so much for your feedback on previous episodes. This is one of the easiest things I get to do, sitting down with intelligent people, godly people, people who are breaking through into new areas and making a real difference. I'm hoping today that this episode will inspire you, especially around this important area of church planting. As I was preparing for this episode, I became so aware of the work of God in my own life, so some of that may come out today. But our Bible College is positioned to help you at any stage along that journey. We're committed to seeing more new churches planted here in Australia and around the world. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Charlie Burke from Exponential, God bless you. Thank you for being here today.
Andrew, so great to be here. Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's been a long time coming.
And it's like all the forces of hell were against getting you here today.
Flight delays, all sorts of stuff, but here we are. So the Lord clearly wanted it to happen.
We'll get you in and out. But isn't that true, though, with church planning, when you're breaking new ground,
Yes.
it shakes up all sorts of stuff, but nothing a good coffee
Amen.
and a good chat with a friend won't fix, eh?
Yeah.
So you are husband, father, church planner,
yes,
one of the front faces of Exponential, done years with Alpha. So tell us, what does a 7-day work week normally look for you, or even do you have a normal 7-day work week?
I think, just to say up front, I don't think there's any, I ever have the same day on repeat. Every day is different. I guess one of the things that I love in my respective roles, Andrew, is I get the joy of being able to, connect across the body of Christ, do different things every day. One of the kind of giftings and anointings on my life is to really connect the body of Christ. And so because of that, it just means that I'm often juggling different things as we're planted a church, but also working with Exponential and some other ministries on the side to kind of connect people to see the kingdom advance. And so there is no such thing as a normal week.
Because even like we're in London, Royal Albert Hall, I turn around and Charlie's there. I'm in another meeting down in Sydney. Charlie's there. Then
People
you're
tend
in
to
Melbourne.
joke that I just pop up in different spaces. And so if that's a gift of the Holy Spirit.
Are you omnipresent? Do you go through?
Not quite, but I do definitely show up in strange places, really just trying to play my role in all that God's doing in Australia and around the world.
The part of your role is you're a church planner.
Yeah.
How many sort of days a week is
so that's very fluid, but my wife and I planted that church about 7 years ago, just before the pandemic, which was a wild ride.
Yeah.
And so obviously in leading our church and our team, Crossway Oak City
What's
Church.
it called?
Crossway Oak City Church.
Crossway Oak City.
Correct. Yeah. And so we planted in 2019. Just a wild ride in terms of the way that the Lord called us to plant that church. And of course, you can then just imagine 12 months later, as the world dramatically changed with the pandemic and all that meant.
Didn't God tell you that it was coming? When he
2020
you,
vision was not there.
Jehovah's sneaky, he's sometimes called, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's a big part of my week. And then several days a week, I also work with Exponential. And so my role with Exponential is as the network lead and really trying to get and connect with as much of the Aussie church around the need to plant more churches.
Yeah, great. So tell us about Exponential, because you've got American stuff with Dave Ferguson.
That's right.
And tell us about Australia and how all that links, please.
Yeah, so Exponential's been around for about 20 years globally. And it really just started off as a gathering of people who had a hunger to plant more churches. And it snowballed into what has now become the largest global gathering of church planters as part of their global conference in March every year. And with that, I think just particularly in the West, people started to look on and go, well, this is our heart too. We need to see more churches planted in Europe, in Australia, Latin America. Of course, there's exponential church growth already happening in parts of the world like Asia and Africa. And yet, so, in the pandemic, between Dave and, I guess, an alliance of other Aussie church leaders, there was this real strong resonance of well, we need something like Exponential in Australia. And so we did some research in 2021, which you could say was shadowed by the pandemic, and yet sadly, research back in 2016 also reflected some of the same stats, that only 1% of the church in Australia was actively seeking to plant another church. And so whether it was due to the pandemic, but also just a lot of people having a good hard look at themselves when it came to discipleship and church planting, there was just an opportunity to go, Aussie church, we need to plant more churches.
Yeah.
We estimate that currently only about 16% of the Australian population is in relational connection with the existing Australian church. So that means there's 84% of the Australian population that is desperately in need of a church nearby to connect with, someone to reach out to, invite them to.
If you had such a small number of people even interested in church planting, it's like we're walking up an escalator that's coming down.
Yeah.
You still need to be pushing more out just to cover the back end of people retiring.
Yeah. And if you look at it purely on like a factual reproduction perspective, where like if a country was only reproducing at a rate of 1% per year, your GDP would be affected, your future would be affected. And so we have really, as we've started in Australia, our activity about coming up on 5 years ago, really just sought to fly the flag on how can we help every part of the Australian church actively seek to multiply, making disciples, raising leaders. And whenever you do that, inevitably, you're going to have to plant churches.
Yeah. So you've got the Exponential conference that comes up every year, but I think this year's sold out.
We've been blown away because this is only our third conference, Andrew. So I think that speaks to not even anything necessarily that we're doing, actually just the momentum that I think is there within the Australian church at the moment. Yeah. I think there is more of a hunger and passion within the next generation of leaders to plant churches, to reach the lost, to raise up others that can advance the kingdom. And so this is only our third conference, and we've been sold out for 6 months.
Yeah. Wonder how much tickets can go on the black market.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I can't tell you how popular I've been the last couple of months in terms of people.
Why do you think, Jess, when I've got you on the podcast on the trip back to the airport, we said, hey, bro. Hey, bro.
But like, I just think it speaks to right across the Australian church. Like, personally, I am more hopeful and optimistic than I've ever been in ministry. And, of course, I'm a relatively young leader. I'm 37. I've only been in ministry for, I guess, coming up on 20 years. But it feels like there is more momentum and energy around opportunities.
God's on the move, isn't
totally.
he?
Big
it's like we were in London recently, and you see that phenomenon that's been happening there the last sort of 7-8 years.
Yes.
Quite revival.
Yes.
But that's everywhere. Like as I travel around churches, numbers are, leaders say numbers are up and we don't know why.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just God's drawing people. He wants his lost kids back and home.
Well, that, and sometimes, and of course, God always wants to work in and through his church. Yeah. But you're hearing these crazy supernatural stories of where God has almost had to, circumnavigate using his people to have, whether it be supernatural dreams.
Yeah,
whether it be
dreams. I thought dreams were only like in Muslim countries because God had to learn to speak cross-culturally.
Yeah.
They're back. Like dreams are back.
Some of the stories that you're hearing are almost no longer out of the ordinary. They're becoming quite normative. And of course, praise God for those stories. But we are in a moment, and you've heard it said before, Andrew, that the foundations of secularism have been shaken.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, there is just swarms of people looking for meaning, looking for purpose. And where they tend to turn, obviously, is spirituality. And you would hope that the church is right on the forefront of how can we take hold of the opportunity in this.
Because people's spirit bears witness to truth. When they hear truth, especially anointed truth,
it's a God-shaped
in the anointed body.
Yeah. Big time.
Well, we better get some people mobilized. So can we start with your story?
Sure.
Like, how the heck did you get started with church planting? Did someone trick you?
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah. It was definitely that was part of it. I mean, to cut a really long story short, I didn't grow up in a Christian family, and so I kind of just, when I came to know the Lord, I just got firstly full of the Spirit, just became incredibly passionate about the things of God. I had like almost a simultaneous call into ministry when I became a Christian, and so. I just wanted to do anything and everything for God. I would have gone anywhere. I would have done anything. And it was just like sealed in my spirit from that kind of young age. I was about 16 or 17. And yet as I kind of I don't like the term, but progressed in ministry, jumped into youth ministry, young adults ministry. We came to a particular juncture in our life where we were wrapping up one season, and really we just didn't know what was next. It was actually at around that time I started to work with Alpha. But I had it was my father-in-law actually, who was definitely like a spiritual father to me. And he just said, hey, because we were quite happy to go and jump into a local church, just be part of serving the vision of a local church. But he said to me at that time, have you ever thought about planting a church?
Yeah.
And my wife and I, truth be told, looked at each other and just went, heck no, not interested whatsoever.
Yeah.
And yet he proceeded to go, all right, well, at the very least, just pray about it. Like classic answer, just go away and pray about it. And so we did. And God absolutely ambushed us.
Wow.
Absolutely. Over the course of about 6 months, we started praying about it and we just couldn't get it out of our spirit. Like, truth be told, before that, I had not heard much about church planting.
Yeah.
It was just not something that was even on my radar that we'd ever thought about. And yet, as we started to bring it to the Lord, talk about it as a married couple, we just couldn't shake it to the point of we knew that if we didn't do it, we would be being disobedient to the call of God in our life. So it was a journey, and one that we felt thoroughly ill-equipped for. We never felt ready. I think church planting is a little bit like having kids. You never actually feel ready to do it, and yet it kind of...
But your heart expands
Totally.
to accommodate the newness.
Yes. And God gives you a heart for the area that he calls you to. Like we are in the western suburbs of Sydney, in an area called Blacktown that historically has kind of been a place that not many people would want to live or they would avoid. And yet, over the course of that season, God just gave us such a supernatural love for that city.
Yeah.
And I think that's often like a real confirmation of like, oh, the Lord is really giving you his heart for somewhere. So anyway, we started to kind of prayerfully share that vision with a couple of people. We invited them around to our living room to hear, what God had put on our heart. And we were very clear with that initial group of people, we want you to go away and pray about it because this is between you and the Lord. Because one of the things that we had obviously heard from others, my father-in-law was a church planter himself. When we came back to him and said, we feel a confirmation to plant, he almost was like both excited and sad at the same time because he knew how hard it was going to be. Yeah. I remember speaking to one quite significant global Christian leader, and I just said, what would you say to someone who felt like they were called to plant a church? And his response was, don't do it.
Yeah.
More under the auspices of only do it if God has called you to do it. And so we brought that group together. I said, we want you to pray about this. We want you to consider what it would look like to get involved in this. And praise God, we had about 12 folk come back and say, we're in. We want to step into the unknown, go on an adventure.
Isn't it the best feeling when you're anointed to gather people?
Yeah.
Like I remember there was a key couple I wanted to join our team, and we'd said Friday's the day.
Yeah.
And the husband called me on the Thursday. He said, Andrew, this is Mike. Yvonne and I, we're in.
Yes.
And I remember being at a cul-de-sac. I was bivocational.
Yeah.
I just sat in the cul-de-sac and cried.
Yes.
I thought God placed them on my heart 6 years before that.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's come. It's time. And
we almost feel like
I'm the man, but I'm God's man.
That's
and this
right.
is such a sacred trust that people are wanting to come under your leadership and the God vision.
Yeah. And you almost feel like you're never more in God's purposes because every day, every week you are trusting him because it's like, Lord, I can't do this. Yeah. I've got, and of course there's wonderful literature out there. There's great books that we can talk about today. But fundamentally, I think church planting is a call from God to step into the unknown. Yeah. And so for us, we were just kind of like, Lord, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We were very open and transparent, even with our core team. We were like, guys, we're working this out as much as we are working this out together. And we just went on an adventure, and God has been so good and so kind. Yes. And the way that it's kind of all unfolded is not like anything we could have imagined.
Yeah, people have said that like church planters like the Red Bull team of the church. You're jumping out the back of a plane without a parachute, but you got those wing kind of things, and you just got to go with the flow. Yeah. You got to be trained of just how to manage the flow to get to where you're doing without crashing and burning.
Yeah, and we had wild stories even like early on, even in terms of like trying to get facilities, trying to do crazy things to connect with people. Yeah. We had one story where we now meet at a local public school, which has been wonderful. Of the last couple of years, we love a building at some stage, and yet when we first started meeting there, the principal completely forgot to give us the keys to let us in for a Sunday. So we actually, and this has kind of like gone into our folklore as a church, we had to like break into the school in order to be able to open the school up and then have church. And that was like some of our first memories of like, how are we rallying people together? How are we doing whatever it takes to reach the lost, to set a culture of where God's presence is honored, where Jesus is glorified.
That's a powerful origin story. You know, these young church planners will say, oh, Charlie Burke broke in, so therefore we're allowed. So, you know, you've got to appear on
There's a precedent for
police officers now.
I won't name
who's this guy called Charlie Burke? There could be a thing like, I blame Charlie Burke. He made me do it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a powerful story.
Yeah.
So misconceptions, like when you said, oh no, not church planning.
Yes.
Like you got that, yeah. It made me think, I'm kneeling in a church in Chicago.
Wow.
And I'm trying to run away from church planning.
Yeah.
I think Bill Hybels said, it will feel like fire shut up in your bones and you will be disobedient.
Yes.
I just kneeled there sobbing,
Wow.
thinking, like, I'm a prisoner to this.
Yes.
It's a runaway freight train and I've just got to hold on. And like,
it's a Jonah story,
nuts.
isn't it? Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And it just, it's something that just arrested us. Like we just couldn't avoid it. And I would suggest, even for those who are listening, like you may even be beginning to feel that kind of butterflies of like, oh gosh, Lord, is that you? Yeah. And I just encourage anyone listening to actually, listen to that sense. It might not even necessarily be the right timing now, but let that calling grow. Like let it begin to really grow within you. Take on the burden of the Lord for something. Because I think that is what will get you through the times where you probably want to quit. Yeah. You probably want to give up. It is going to be too hard. Yeah. And, it's a silly quote, but Mike Tyson, the famous theologian Mike Tyson, once said that everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And I think that's true of church planting. Like you're going to get punched a bunch of times. Yeah. And yet when God calls you to something, when it's the thing that's just got in your bones, you just can't ignore it.
It's like a masterclass in resiliency, isn't it?
Big time.
Yeah, we talked on the way over here about the need for agility. So let's go to like Charles Ridley. Charles Ridley has done some research and he's identified sort of 13 sort of factors, and we can just talk about them about like hallmarks of an effective church planner. Yeah. Number 5 is spousal cooperation. Yes. Like you get it. So what is how do you maintain a strong marriage and family life while you're out there living this crazy pioneering life-breaking new ground, Charlie?
Yeah, I think for us when we were kind of feeling that call and as we were talking it through, one of the things that my wife and I, Jess, we spoke a lot about was that we wanted to do this in a way that never put our family on the altar, because God never asked that of us. He does ask us to put our own lives on the altar, and yet never our family life. And there's a way that this can be done that is healthy and honors the family. And I think one of the best bits of wisdom that I received, again, from my father-in-law, is getting a couple of shout-outs today, is he said, in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, 40 years' time, however long you are involved with the church that you are leading, in 20 years' time, do you want, when all is said and done in terms of your leadership of that church, when you have moved on, who do you want to remember you, the church or your kids? Yeah. And it was one of the most framing kind of questions because, of course, we want to throw ourselves wholeheartedly into something, and yet never at the compromise of my first ministry. Yeah. My first ministry is to Jess and to our kids. And so it just helped me to go, oh, wow, I want to arrange my life accordingly. And so that became a huge impetus to just the way that we kind of went about how do we invite people into a healthy model of church family? Because for many people, they haven't experienced healthy family. Yeah. That's not something that they've experienced. And so I remember, like Andy Stanley, I remember him asking his I heard him preach a message where he asked his wife, what is the number one thing that I can give to you in this season of life, when they had young kids, and our kids are still relatively young. And her response was, just be home between 5 and 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And so things like that have become really important, just like little life mottos that I've lived by the last couple of years. Make sure that you are at home when you need to be at home.
Yeah.
You can do stuff at all sorts of other crazy hours of the day, but make sure that you're home in that window. Craig Rochelle once said that everything that you say yes to, you are saying no to something else. And again, that's a very helpful framing question of like, whenever I say yes to a ministry commitment, which there's going to be a truckload of ministry commitments, good ones and maybe ones that are more born of the flesh than the spirit.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really helpful way of going, well, if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to my family.
Yeah.
And vice versa, you know? And so just to have some of those little mantras to call upon. And I also think, you know, Peter Scazzero said it really well when he said that we minister out of our marriage.
Yeah.
That is the thing that we minister from. Like when people see our lives, and of course the title of this podcast, The Flourishing Life, what do they see? Do they see a flourishing life?
Yeah.
Do they see a flourishing marriage? Do they see a flourishing family, a flourishing church? That is what you're inviting people into fundamentally in life in the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so to be able to model that and showcase that to, even in a pioneering season, you want to show people that there is a way that you can do that that's healthy.
Sounds like this is a hard-fought lesson. I can hear processed pain resonating
Big time.
at a subterranean frequency.
Yes.
Mate, that's gold.
Yeah.
You're really helping some people.
It's good.
Do you want to say it again? Look after your family.
Big time. I remember
Ask your wife, what do you need from me in this season?
Yes. And I think it's always born out of pain, right, Andrew? Like, I can remember there was a time where because in all the different things that I do, it requires me to travel. It does require me, upon occasion, to be away from family.
Yeah.
And I remember taking a FaceTime with my wife and my kids. And I have never seen my kids look more disappointed in me. And it's like it shook me to the core. Now, they're very forgiving, of course, and but it was a moment that really caught my attention of like, I've been away too much.
Yeah.
And it was just a real kind of inflection point of like, I don't want to do that again.
Okay.
And so make sure that you are prioritizing the main
Well, I've watched you pivot, even like you did London and back in 6 days, 6.5.
Yeah, it may have even been 5. It was.
I thought, man, you've come all that way, but your family's important.
Yeah.
You can't be away for too long. So
I got
a day there, a day back.
That says run home. Never be away longer than you absolutely have to be.
Yeah.
You know, like make those things, you want to get home.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, this is awesome, honest. So you're building a church. I like how you said there's man-made things you want to do, and then there's God things. That's always the tension for us as leaders. But what does faith look like for you when, say, the numbers of your church aren't going with the graph trajectory that you've manufactured in your head?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the first year of our plant was probably a huge learning curve for me around even just comparison. Like I think sometimes social media, as wonderful as it is also like, we've all heard the C.S. Lewis quote before that comparison is the thief of joy. So even while we were alive in faith, we were stepping out, we were seeing some great little trickles of things happen. You open your Instagram and the first thing you see is the other church or your buddy's church that's like killing it, and they've just had 1 million people in church on the weekend. And so I think for me, you know, it became also a real journey of like, where am I getting my identity and affirmation from? Because metrics as good as they are, sometimes like we can become obsessed by those things rather than actually, what has the Lord asked you to do?
Yeah.
Because I can look at what Andrew is doing, or I can look at what somebody else is doing, and I can actually be trying to live into their calling rather than the one that the Lord has called me to. And yet, of course, I think particularly when things aren't going maybe as well as you thought they would be going, I remember hearing someone talk about like there's a huge difference between breakthrough and innovation. And sometimes you feel like the Lord, you're on the cusp of breakthrough. You're like, no, we've got to keep going at this. Like, we've got to keep banging this drum. We've got to keep going for what the Lord has asked us to do. And, culture is slow and messy. It's something that takes time to build. It doesn't just happen overnight. I think sometimes, particularly if you're a young leader or a young church planter, you can have this real temptation of going, this thing will explode overnight.
Yeah.
Well, listen, things that go up overnight tend to go down overnight as well. And yet, on the flip side of that, I think there are times in our ministry where the Lord asks us to step back and go, are you just doing something because you've always done it? Or is there an opportunity for innovation here?
Yeah.
And I think there's a big difference. And that's something that I think
That's good.
a leader needs to kind of test their own spirit thinking on and just go, Lord, is this something that you're asking me to continue to just pioneer for breakthrough?
Yeah.
Or is this an opportunity to go, oh, maybe we need to change something up here in order to reach more people or to grow something?
I'm loving how you're reflecting on the journey and you're pulling quotes in, and I just like the way you think. So if I just go a bit deeper, like, what's one leadership lesson that took you years to learn?
Yes.
At some stage when you learn the lesson, God will probably go, he finally got it.
Yeah.
He finally got it.
Yeah, I think the big one for me, Andrew, has probably only come about in like the last 2 years. And I got the opportunity to take a sabbatical about 18 months ago. And it had been a big 5 years of ministry. It had been a big 5 years of pioneering a new church, helping get Exponential off the ground, being involved in a bunch of other kind of kingdom endeavors and initiatives. And I went on a sabbatical, and I felt like, and I don't know if anyone's experienced this before, but you step away from ministry for a rest, for a sabbatical. And I just had some real profound learnings come into my spirit while I was away. Firstly, I had to come off the drug of adrenaline, because when we get in it, sometimes we don't realize just how much we're running on adrenaline. Yeah. And as I stepped away from ministry, just for 6 weeks, it wasn't a long sabbatical, I just realized how much I had been running at a pace, which was good and right. And yet I remember someone saying to me that nobody else is going to take responsibility for your devotional walk with the Lord. Yeah. And it was in that season where I felt like the Lord started to speak to me very clearly that I had abdicated my responsibility in terms of the inner fortress that I had between myself and the Lord. Yeah. And in many ways, I had to come to a point of realization and confession that I'd become quite a prayerless pastor. I'd become someone who was happy to get up and preach, talk about church planting, all these things that we're passionate about, and yet, if you were to ask me how my own personal walk with the Lord is, it probably wasn't strong, mate. Yeah. It was actually really lacking. So I had to go through 2025 for me was a real year of rebuilding my fortress. No one else is going to take responsibility for that. And I think one of the things that we often don't like talking about sometimes in Christian ministry and leadership is accountability. And I had to hold myself accountable to my fortress with the Lord, my devotional life with the Lord is the most important thing about my day and about what I can offer to other people. Because otherwise, I don't have fresh oil, I don't have new wine, I don't have the things that actually, I think bring about an anointing in the Lord where I can actually offer that to people. And so that was a lesson that I wish that I learnt a lot earlier. And it's actually become a real foundation of my ministry now. Yeah. I think on the flip side of that, and of course, I'm the first one to say, big picture, big vision, kingdom impact, let's take the hill. And yet I think one of the things that is also become really valuable in this season of the church in Australia and in the West in general is also we need safe leaders. We need men and women who can steward the power and the presence of God, who can steward people well. And, just imagine if leaders can do that for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, just the impact that has. It's like the miracle of compound interest. It's something that actually reproduces and multiplies itself over time. And so I think that fortress, as well as the safety of what it means to be a young spiritual father, is probably the big lessons that I've learned.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Ministering the overflow is so important, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. church planning helped me pray. I remember being up at 1 and 2 a.m. pacing the family hall going, help me not stuff this up.
Yeah.
Help me not stuff this up. Like people were moving into the area to come and support.
Wow.
And I just thought, oh, crap, like I can't get out of this now. But I remember one of my key convictions came out of Romans 8:31, if God is for me, who can be against me?
Yeah.
I just remember it took me weeks and weeks to build courage and faith into my spirit. But prayer. Prayer is so essential.
Big time.
So what are you seeing in the Australian church? You've got an amazing view at a macro level. Church in Australia, what sort of things are you seeing out there? You've got Exponential there. Yeah. You still got there's ARC, that's still strong in America coming through. What else are you seeing in Australia, or what sort of trends are you seeing in church planning? Because bivocational's kind of back now. Well, you're the pin-up guy. Yep. Well, don't let me lead the witness. What are you seeing? What are you seeing?
Yeah, listen, I think this is going to probably sound a little bit simplistic, Andrew, but I reckon those who are prepared to give it a crack and have a red hot go, to use the Aussie colloquialism, the Lord's blessing it.
Yeah.
And I don't think it can be siloed to a model or a movement or a certain way of doing things. I think it's those who are prepared to, if we take the Great Commission seriously, if we're really prepared to give it all that we've got in terms of winning the lost and planting churches. And I'm so excited by this new or young breed of leaders that are coming through right across the church in Australia who are prepared to kind of really live it out.
Yeah.
And I think if we have that kingdom first approach, no egos and logos, but really just we want to see the kingdom flourish in our nation.
Yeah.
Because, I said it earlier, we've got 84% of our nation that's not currently in connection with a church.
Yeah.
And so if we're prepared to give all that we've got, all that it takes in order to kind of reach the lost, it's not about just shifting sheep around. Yeah. It's about actually planting churches that have a missional impetus to reach the lost.
Yeah.
And so I think some of what I think is definitely encouraging me is some of those who have really, I think firstly, and some of the data that's coming out at the moment, that if the church planter has an evangelistic heart and intent, the church is going to do well, namely because there's going to be a trickle-down effect. Everything that the church is about is going to be about reaching the lost, whether it's through Alpha, whether it's through street evangelism, whether it's through many other methodologies that are out there. And so the churches are doing well right from the get-go. They're going, this is about making disciples. Yes, it's about great Sundays. Yes, it's about great leadership development. But if we're not reaching the lost, we already have a pipeline issue in terms of making disciples and raising leaders. Because who knows that the best leaders are those who have recently come to faith.
Yeah.
They've caught it. They've experienced Jesus. They've experienced his love and his mercy, and they just want to be about his kingdom.
Yeah.
And so I think as I look across the church and as I see, praise God, since some of that data, that research that we first did back in 2021, we're estimating that there's been roughly a 22% increase in church planting in our nation, which starting from that low bar of 1%, granted, but 22% is encouraging.
Yeah.
And so we need many more churches to reach the people who are not currently in connection with the church. And so I'd summarize that by saying those who are prepared to give it a crack and are about the lost.
Yeah.
It's got to be about the lost.
I met with our national chairman this week. He said the same thing. He just admired someone recently who passed, but his life legacy was wanting to be someone who gave it a good red hot crack.
Yes.
Maybe it's an Australian thing.
Totally.
Pioneering.
I think there's something unique to that Australian identity, particularly as church leaders, of we pack a disproportionate punch.
Yeah.
To the size of nation that we are, even the size of church. You look at the Australian church and the way that it's impacted the global church.
Yeah.
There's something in that Australian psyche.
It's like the amount of gold medals Australia gets in the Olympics,
We're
per capita.
Come on.
We're punching above our weight.
Don't talk to the Kiwis about that, though, because I think they still like to say that they get more. But
Well, let's flush a few people out. I had a call to church planning, and a benefactor rang me and said, look, I know you want to go see some things around the world. Here's some money.
Wow.
Go and see some stuff. So I wanted to go to, and I heard about church planning in the early 2000s. So Nelson Searcy and Ron Silver and Kerrick Thomas. They were linked to the Saddleback Network. So I went to, they had a church planning workshop as part of a purpose-driven church thing. So I went for 2 days. They've got this manual.
Wow.
And I called this up, and I remember this moment, and they talk about the shape, the SHAPE of a church planner. And as it's going through, I felt
you're realizing it's you.
God coming around. It was, and I just turned up.
Yeah.
I'm just pursuing God. I'm just seeing through a dark glass dimly. I'm on the other side of the world, and it was a stitch up. But there's a cluster of spiritual gifts around teaching, faith, leadership, breaking through, having a heart, a passion for unchurched, and having a heart for the local church. You need those two things.
Yes.
And I've got a quote here: God's plan for the world is the local church.
Yeah.
I've got to bleed for the local church. Okay. Abilities, you've got to be able to some sort organize yourself and organize other people. Your personality, you've got to have a love for people. Like you've got to be energized, even addicted by seeing life change and transformation in people. You want to see other people come to Jesus. And your experiences, you're entrepreneurial, you're in an operational management role, you're supervising something, you've got lots of youth ministry experience.
Yeah.
You've got a history of breaking boundaries. You're not bitter at the church, but you know it could be better.
Yeah.
You've got a holy discontent. You like to start and try new things, and you're often misunderstood. And
It's a profile.
I just and I started sobbing.
Wow.
And I think, what? No way.
Yes.
So there's a cluster of things like red hot. There's a gift mix or a profile. So that's one. But that was my hijack moment. So that could just be my secret thing, and God gave me a giddy up and put a firecracker in my back pocket. But what are you seeing? Someone who's got a heart for lost people. You want someone who wants to give it a crack. Like you don't mind taking a bit of risk.
Yeah.
What do you see as some things that you look for when you just into a natural or leadership eyes to draw that gift out of people?
Yeah, it's good. No, and I think all those things that you listed, Andrew, are still very true.
Yeah.
Although I would not change those things at all. And I think historically you would definitely say that a church planter would have a degree of grit about them, an entrepreneurial spirit where they can start something from nothing. Yeah. And that takes a real gift to be able to, build momentum, start with nothing, give it a go. I mean, I think there would probably be two other things that I'd throw in there, and we were just chatting about this offline, of like, there needs to be an agility in a leader, like an ability to pivot. Yeah. I think more so than ever before, but particularly post-pandemic, particularly, when it comes to setting up something new, rallying people, new facility one week, different facility the next week. You have to have a degree of like, we can change this thing on the fly and be okay with that. Yeah. If you're going to get set in stone as a church planter, particularly early on, that's not going to go well for you. There needs to be a sense of like, we can make this work. We will make this work. The other thing, I think this is probably one of the more underrated kind of qualities, is about how do you develop a healthy team? Yeah. Because, I'm of the conviction more and more so, and of course that, everything does rise and fall on leadership. Of course, we know that proverb. And yet when you look at the New Testament, repeatedly Paul was saying we. There was a collective approach to what the Lord was doing in the early church. And so I think for something to flourish and do well, the planter has got to have their eyes on, how do I develop the people around me? Yeah. It's not the Charlie show. Yeah. I'm not the hero of this story. Actually, Jesus is the hero, and how can I actually help make heroes of other people who are part of the team, and potentially even future church planters themselves? Yeah. Like, I love one of the models that's come out of Alpha and the Holy Trinity Brompton network of this idea of planting pregnant. Yeah. So it's like, you're not just, planting on your own. You're actually bringing an apprentice along with you who's seeing how it's done, who's catching the vision, who's beginning to pray and ask the Lord for their own calling to go and plant a church. I think that collective approach and that team approach, because, we all know in ministry there's days where you want to quit, And to have people around you that you can laugh with, that you can sympathize with, that you can share your battle scars with.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for team.
Yeah. My mentor at the time said, Andrew, don't just plant a church planting church.
Love that.
And on first Sunday, we sowed an offering. We raised $2,000 and gave it to Metamorphic. Metamorphic was doing some great stuff up in Asia. So
that's
right in the... While we were still wet concrete.
Clark?
Yeah, Lindsay Clark, based on Sunshine Coast. Shout out to Lindsay there. But they were juggernauts back in those days.
And I'd encourage anyone who's listening to this as well, if God's calling you to plant a church, do just what you said. Plant a church, planting church.
Yeah.
So when we were 12 people in our living room, we said, we are going to be a church planting church.
Yeah.
Now, that sounded absolutely ridiculous when you were 12 people in a living room.
Yeah.
And yet when that's in the DNA from the get-go, I think it does something to the way you think.
Yeah.
Because you're not just thinking, and of course, one church plant's wonderful.
Yeah.
But what would it mean? I can remember Pastor David Storer, who's a great church planting leader in our nation,
and
based out of Perth.
Yeah, how many leaders have come out from under his leadership?
Amazing. But he uses this analogy of an apple. And when each and every one of us look at an apple, with the perspective that we bring, we can either see an apple or we can see an orchard.
Yeah.
And we can see the multiplication effect that can take root with actually, if we use the seeds from that, if we begin to sow into something else. And so I think if people can be thinking about not just planting, but planting pregnant and the multiplication that can come from that would be a huge encouragement as well.
There's some keys, like I sort of stumbled and got resources on the run. And make contact with us through our handle around. We can send you Ridley's 13 factors. They're good. It's with our movement linked to some Harrison, a psychometric assessment. You can do church planning profiles. But Charlie, if there's someone listening here, like books, what book you got? That one?
Yeah,
you
so we
reckon
brought
that's
one
a good
along
one?
today. We've got Church Plantology here by Peyton Jones, which is a wonderful book. I would also highly encourage, anything written by Dave Ferguson, who is the global visionary leader of Exponential. He's written a great book called Hero Maker, which I think can be read by any church leader, but definitely someone who's thinking about planting a church.
Something about that.
Big time. Well, it's like, how do we multiply at every level? Because invariably that becomes the challenge when we talk about church planting. We need more kids leaders. We need more worship leaders. We need someone on the sound desk. It is the onus of every person in the life of your church to be multiplying and raising up an apprentice leader.
Yeah.
And when you do that, one of the big catch cries I'm hearing a lot about the Australian church at the moment is where are all the leaders coming from? We don't have enough leaders. Yeah. And so this isn't necessarily going to be a solution that's going to pop up overnight. It's something we've got to work out over months and years.
Yeah.
And so anyone who's kind of thinking about jumping in, I'd be really encouraging them to read Hero Maker. One of the Agile books, which is a textbook. It's not going to necessarily be something that keeps you awake at night. It's probably more of like you want to make sure you've had your coffee while you read it. Is Tim Keller's famous Center Church, which talks about how you are theologically understanding how the gospel fits into your city.
Yeah.
Because I think that's often something that a lot of church planters forget about. Is like, where are the needs? Where is the gospel going to meet those needs? How can we reach out to people? What are the idols? Yeah. Where's the spiritual warfare?
Because you've got to be able to preach. You got to be able to preach into that the ideals of the kingdom, which is countercultural. Almost like a prophetic voice into the community.
It's like Paul at Mars Hill. It's understanding what is going on in your area, and therefore how does the gospel come into that place.
So you got Exponential, you've got really snappy 30-minute podcasts. Yeah. They're inspiring. Yeah. I know she did Isaac Lenton. Yeah. Shout out to Isaac from Sanctuary
should have made
Church
a collab, Andrew.
on the Gold Coast. And then you got your Exponential conference as well. Yes. And most denominations have got some sort of organised expression of church planning. You want to go talk to a leader, put your hand up. Like we run Upper Room Academy every year, and what we're finding is our last cohort of that, 4 people would say, I'm interested in church planning. They've gone and seen our denominational leadership. So they're not ready yet. Yes. What happens is they've been identified, and we can start to put resource and opportunity around them and start to work through Ridley's 13 areas, what we need to strengthen, like spousal cooperation, number 5. Yeah. Don't jump out of a plane without a parachute, without holding your wife's hand and she's in agreement. Yes. Or your husband's hand.
Yeah. And listen, I think all of those things are hugely important. I mean, the thing that I'd also say to anyone who's listening and beginning to feel stirred around this is, and I'm stealing this line from a good friend of mine, who'd be great to have on the podcast actually at some point, Darren Burnell, often uses this line.
Is he the Jethro?
That's right.
The project,
Jethro,
ACC New
That's
South
right.
Wales,
Yeah. He often uses this line of don't get stuck in the not yet zone.
Yeah, okay.
Because his experience has been that you'll often ask someone or connect with a leader at a conference and they'll say, oh, yeah, I feel like I'm going to plant a church one day. And then you see them 12 months later and you ask them, oh, has anything changed? Has anything happened? And they'll say, oh, not yet. I'm still getting other things, in order. And that's where I think accountability is, again, hugely important. Of like, don't get stuck in the not yet zone. Every church leader can do something.
Yeah.
Even if you are not the one to plant the church, who is the person that you're raising up to go and plant the church?
Because you can go and support a team.
Big time.
Because most churches are launched with a team that is a launch team, not a core team.
Yes.
I found there's a trend that usually within 18 months, the original team that started are no longer there. Because God brings scaffolding people just for a season, and they're looking for a targeted experience outside the church, and then they return back to that.
And that's something I wish someone told me as well. Andrew. Like that is
saves you
valuable wisdom.
Saves having a broken heart.
Yes, because I thought we were going to be best friends forever.
Yeah,
and that's just.
See, I learned that because I listened to some audio tapes from Bob Logan.
Yeah,
he said that don't ever call. I remember I announced my team and then I changed them. They're now the launch team.
Yeah.
Someone said to me, "Why'd you pivot?" I said, I'll explain it to you in 18 months' time. It's funny, that tape by Bob Logan, he said this, whenever you're renting a facility or something, how you win favour is you go to people and say, is there anything that you need that I can help you with? So there was a 354-seat auditorium out at Springfield and everyone was lobbying for it. But I remember going to the decision maker and said, like, you got all this money, but I bet you there's something that you need that you can't get. And he said, I need a fridge, mate.
Wow.
Can you get me a fridge?
Yes.
It costs us $3,500.
Yeah.
But like he just said, I like doing business with. He said, everyone's trying to get this facility at the cheapest price. I said, it's a high price facility. I want to buy for it. And we just had we didn't get a rent increase in 4 years.
Wow.
$200 a week, brand new auditorium with air conditioning.
Wow.
And then I said, can we put some storage underneath? He goes, you can have it for free if you build me some shelves on the other side. So the carpenters in the church built this storage.
Awesome. And
we could do a church pack up and set up like literally in 26, 27 minutes.
Amazing.
Like that kept the volunteers
Happy.
going. We had a coffee machine. Everyone got a coffee for free.
And Bob Logan was the absolute.
Isn't he just a guru? Yeah.
Oh, and one of his lines has very much become a life mantra of mine. He said, I want my fruit to grow on other people's trees. Like, what a line that is in terms of like, that's what true kingdom impact is.
Yeah.
It's not about necessarily what I can do or what I can achieve as much as, I'm not being falsely humble about that.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, it's about what I can sow into other people, and the impact will always be disproportionately higher than what I can do on myself.
Yeah. Mate, I'm enjoying this. We've got to get you to a plane soon, but then we think, like in the Bible college, like we've got Mark Verghese coming when INC National Conference. You're going to be there. So we've got a 4-unit certificate, pass, fail, and you can be mentored by whoever you want. So we're going to be releasing that. But one of the pieces of that is not about doing long assignments, but it's finding an accountability relationship. You've got to have someone speaking in your life. We've talked about that before, but what's your views on like an accountability and how that's important for a church planning or even for young leaders?
Yeah, I'd say I think a lot of church leaders, and particularly young leaders, are often looking for the silver bullet. What's gonna fix my ministry, or what's gonna be the thing that's gonna take me to the next level? And I think sometimes we need to be sober minded. And of course, the presence of God can do whatever He likes, and God will do in one day what man will do in 1,000 years. All of that stuff, I absolutely am on board with that. And yet, I honestly think that one of the secret sources to healthy Christian leadership is actually about accountability. And not even just in the sense of, often when we hear the term accountability, it's like, oh, how's my thought life? What have I been looking at? All that kind of stuff. But actually accountability around, am I actually putting into practice and putting into place what I've said I would do? Okay. And some of the research that's come out of the Harvard Business School around accountability relationships and outputs is significant. If you set goals, there's an immediate impact on being accountable to those goals. If you're in an accountability coaching relationship or group, that skyrockets again. And so I'd want to encourage anyone who's listening to this going, I feel like I've grown a bit stagnant, or there's something that's not really coming out of the ministry that I'd hoped for. If you find yourself a coach or someone who's going to meet with you on a regular basis and ask, how's your preaching going? Or how's your leadership development going? Or set a goal around how many leaders do you want to develop this year? You actually put a number on that. I think sometimes we're so scared of putting numbers on stuff that we just don't do it at all, and therefore we wonder why things haven't improved or grown over the last 12 months. And so I think, particularly what you're talking about with your students, Andrew, for them to enter into a coaching relationship or a mentoring relationship, someone who's going to speak into their life, that they grant access, not just at the surface, but also like, who am I going to really share my life and ministry with? That will disproportionately yield results over time.
And a good mentor, they'll open up doors for you too.
Yeah.
They'll put their hand in their pocket and release a resource for you too. That's a smart move for any leader.
Yeah.
Build accountability, get mentoring, take people out for lunch.
Yeah.
I used to do that. Take me out to lunch. They'd be talking, I'd be eating. So it was a great time. Hey, there's people driving home in the car right now. They're listening to your voice. And let's flush some church planners out.
Yeah.
What would you say to the people listening to this podcast on the way home from work? They're feeling a stirring towards ministry, but they're not sure what the future holds. Charlie Burke, can you speak directly in their spirit with a word of the Lord for them right now?
Absolutely, I can. Yeah, the thing I'd say, and again, this might sound quite simple, but I think it will change your life if you simply give Jesus your yes. Jesus, you've got my yes. I don't know what the question is, but you've got my yes. And I think if we can begin to live lives of radical obedience like that, I was reading this week, Why Revival Tarries by Leonard Ravenhill. Great book. And he was quoting Edwin Orr, who said the best thing you can do with your life is to throw yourself into whatever the Lord is doing in your generation. That is the best thing you can do. And I think if we kind of have that eternal perspective and go, Lord, you've got my yes. I'm prepared to go anywhere, do anything. If it's church planting, I'll do it. If it's to be a missionary, I'll do it. If it's to be an accountant, I'll do it. You have my yes. And I think when we do that and we recognize the way that God has uniquely wired me to be me and you to be you, that's going to look and feel different for everyone. Yeah. But God's got my yes. Yeah. And so I think when you grow into the way that God has uniquely fashioned Charlie Burke to be a connector, a church planter, someone who's passionate about the kingdom in the way that he does what he does, that's so liberating. It's so life-giving.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I'm hoping there's people who've pulled over at the side of the road right now.
Yeah.
And they're just having a moment.
Yes.
And they're praying prayers, and I'm hoping there's tears.
Amen.
Yeah. We have to do this again. Mate,
Part one.
I feel like there's so much more. Mate, you're so prepared as a guest, and we just appreciate who you are. Looking forward to you seeing in our world, in our denomination in July.
Yes.
So look out for Charlie Burke.
Come say good day.
On Exponential, the website. And offers, we've got an intensive coming up about building effective teams coming up. So we'll be announcing that. So just check out our link tree for the School of Ministries or on mine, or check out videos. I mean, come and see if you want some strategic help. Like, we'll help fast track and get you. You're smart enough. You'll work it out yourself, but we'll just get you quicker. So you're looking for a learning partner, a growth partner, come and drop us a line. Thanks so much for being on this episode. Make sure you send Charlie some love. He's detoxed himself from social media. I can take screenshots and I'll send it to him because I'm your social media aggregator, all right?
Let's do that.
Keep a good life. God bless you. We'll see you next episode.